It's just Bruce, he don't bite. Hello.
Hey folks, welcome back to my shop. It is Thursday, April 11th, I think? Yeah, 11th. I think it's 11th. Doesn't matter. Anyway, my last video I was talking about stuff I hated from the 80s, which was my teen years, growing up, middle school, high school, and college. And a lot of people misconstrued that. They thought that I was saying I hated the 80s. I did not hate the 80s. I love the 80s. There was so many good things about the 80s. But everybody does videos about all the stuff they like. I'm just reminding you of the stuff that we really didn't like or I didn't like. Like I said, this is all my opinion. So tonight I decided to do the same with the 70s. Now see, the 70s were kind of hard for me because I was just a little kid. I mean, 1970, I was 2 years old. So ages 2 to 11 in 1979. That's what I'm basing this on. So I wasn't participating in the politics or the economic climate, all that big people stuff. I wasn't dealing with it. I was just dealing with my own thoughts on what I really hated about the 80s or about the 70s. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. So let's get started. I'm actually going to make fun of myself a little bit in this video too, because I found some old pictures I thought you guys might find funny. So let's get started with that right now. So evidently I'm having microphone problems. You can probably hear that annoying buzzing in the background. I apologize for that. This is the only microphone I have. It's not even that old. It's only about a year old. And it never moves from this spot. So I'm going to get myself a new microphone for the next one. But I just decided to carry on through this and see if I can get through it. Because I've been sick all week. I have pneumonia. And I'm just bored out of my skull. I can't leave the house. I can't do anything. My wife went to work. And I'm bored, which is why I'm going to do this continuation of my last video. Anyway, back to the video. Things I hated from the 70s. And I hope you agree on some of these. Like I said, it's just my opinion. Number one has got to be these tube socks right here. As you can see, that's me, little me. I'm trying to think. I think that was 1975 or 76, I'm guessing. I mean, there's just so much wrong. No wonder people picked on me when I was a kid. That's how my parents used to dress me. Yeah, bad memories. You see the bad haircut I had. I mean, the haircuts in the 70s were just bad altogether. But I think the worst of all was the Kmart clothes. My parents used to dress me up and send me to school looking like that. Now, this is in the summer. I don't think we were allowed to wear shorts at school. But, yeah, if that was my kid, that's embarrassing. Another thing I hated about the 70s, every Sunday we went to church. I didn't hate going to church. Church is kind of fun. We had Sunday school. We get to run around for a little bit. What would happen is my parents would take me to Sunday school, and then they'd leave. They go around the block, and there's a little cafe around the corner. They'd have coffee while I was in Sunday school, and then we'd meet up again and go to the church service. And I was raised in a Methodist church. That's a whole other watch. I'm just saying, every Sunday we had to put on our Sunday best, and so they would dress me up, the little monkey boy here, in that suit. It's missing the jacket though. And, it was so uncomfortable. I'm not a suit guy. I never have been. But that's how I would dress up every Sunday. Now, my dad had a pickup truck, and it was 4 of us. My mother, my father, my sister, and myself. Well, we had a pickup truck. So guess who got to ride in the back of the pickup truck? And that was a lot of fun back then, and it was legal. But we used to do it all the time. The problem is, you're wearing a polyester outfit. You're sitting in the back of a pickup truck. And he had a cap on it, because, that's what you did back in the 70s. You put a cap on it. Sitting in the back, polyester, nice waxed truck bed. You're sliding around all over the place, banging your face off the back window. Yeah, I hate it every Sunday morning having to get dressed up like this and go to church. I love it now that we don't have to do that anymore. You just wear something neat and tidy and go to church. That's the way it is. But I hated that suit. I remember posing for that picture. It's one of my earliest childhood memories, posing for that stupid-ass picture. Yeah, like I had the little bow tie. I looked like, I don't know. And we still had the bad hair. That was the haircut I had my whole childhood. So no wonder I got picked on. Anyway, next we have... All right, before we do the next one, I found the picture that has me in the full suit. And I think this is actually a suit before that. I think this is actually my very first suit. I think I was maybe 3... I don't know, which would have been 1971, 72. I have no freaking idea. But this was a church day for us, and this is what we wore to church. You had to dress up to go to church. And like I said, I hated it. Anyway, moving on. This isn't all going to be about me. I just thought you'd enjoy seeing little Brucey there. This car is a 1976 Chevy Vega, Big Bird yellow. And in the 70s, this was our church car sometimes. It was actually my mother's car. My dad bought it for her because it was like a equal rights movement. Women wanted to have jobs in cars, which I have no problem with that. Please don't blow me up in the comments for saying it that way. But you have to go back into the 70s frame of mind. My dad was older. They had me when I was, or they had me in 1968. I came late in life for them. I wasn't supposed to be born, basically. So I had older parents growing up. I think they were 38 whenever I was born, which is, kind of old, especially for back in the 70s. But anyway, this was my mom's car, and we would tool back and forth to church. He'd run it once in a while, because my mom really didn't take it anymore, so we would take it to church. And the funny thing is put all four of us in there. It didn't have a very big engine. It had a little four-banger engine with no fuel injection. It could go 0 to 60 in about 2 days. And with all four of us in there, I live in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is a very hilly state. We pull the hill up. I swear to God, my dad would go like this trying to get the car just to make it up over the hill. I hated that car. It was a piece of junk, even worse than the 80s Mustangs that I mentioned in the last video I did. All right, enough about that one. Man, is it raining outside. I just had a huge coughing fit. And I went to the bathroom, and I looked, it's pouring outside here in Pennsylvania. Anyway, I know you don't care about that. The next thing I want to talk about is, most of the 70s, I was just a little kid. Like I said, 1970, I was 2 years old. So the first half of the 70s was just me being a little kid. I don't remember a lot about it. But one of my first memories of the 70s, and I didn't like it back then, every time you wanted to, Dad would make me get up and move the rabbit ears. You know what rabbit ears are? I'm going to show you. Rabbit ears, just a little tiny metal. Look at the picture. It's right there. I'm sure you know what rabbit ears are or were. They're trying nowadays to say they're older digital antennas. It's in, I'm not even get started on that. No, they're rabbit ears, and we used to actually put aluminum foil on it. We'd get our better reception because we didn't have cable in the 70s. Some people might have. We didn't. Like I said, my parents were older. They were more old-fashioned. So when we finally did get cable, it was the late 70s when we finally got the cable. And even then, it was only 36 channels. I do remember that number. But yeah, we had to get up, and every so often, you have to get up and adjust the rabbit ears, depending on what station you're trying to watch. And we only had a couple stations: NBC, ABC, Channel 13, like Mr. Rogers and stuff like that. Channel 13 was a PBS station. Just the basics, nothing fancy. And if you were lucky and you lived in the right area, you could go on UHF and get a few higher stations. But that's what we had. Kind of sucked. I didn't get to watch a lot of TV anyway because we only had the one television in the house. When my dad was home, he would sit there and watch what he wanted to watch, and that's it. But yeah, I hated rabbit ears. In the 70s, TV dinners were popular, but they weren't anything even close to what they have today in 2024. You'd get, and this is a meatloaf one, I believe, you get a piece of meatloaf, some nasty green beans. I don't even know what those things are to the top left. It's some kind of potato, I'm assuming. And then I believe this one came with a brownie. And your mom would throw that in the oven and bake it, and then you'd eat it on a TV tray table in front of the TV while your dad watches stuff that you're not interested in. That was like a good night. That was a night whenever mom didn't feel like cooking, and we get these every once in a while. I hated them back then. I still hate them today. But yeah, TV dinners, no thanks. All right, like I said, I'm not doing these in any specific chronological order. I just have a list here that my wife and I sat down the other night thinking about. And I forgot about these until she told me. Frog's legs, since we're talking about food. Frog legs were a big deal back in the 70s. A lot of restaurants had frog's legs. I've had frog leg. I don't mind frog's legs. They're okay. But in the 70s, people were insane about them. They were like chicken wings are today. They would just do it with frog legs. They were cheap to buy. If you kind of think about it, it's a little bit disgusting. In fact, for my daughter's 21st birthday, she wanted to go out to eat. I'm like, sure, I'll take you out to eat. What do you want to get? She's, I want to try frog's legs because she's a kind of a hipster type person and she likes retro things. And she heard about frog legs in the 70s. And yeah, they were out there. They were pretty popular. A lot of people ate them. I hated them. I just didn't like them. I don't have a problem with them, but the fact that it was such a huge delicacy to get your frog's legs. Come on, man. You're eating a frog's butt. Gross. And just like Frog's Legs, where they kept like just it was just like it was everywhere, and that was more like in the late 70s. Every restaurant we went had Frog's Legs. You know, you got Frog's Legs. It was supposed to be a big special treat. I didn't like it. Kich Lank, which is what's pictured right here. It's a pie with like an eggy substance in it. It wasn't bad, but they still like acted like it was this big hoity-toity fancy dish, and it wasn't that good. It really wasn't. But people ate it and they loved it, and I don't understand why. Ew. Okay, the next thing that sucked in the 70s was missing your bus for school, because I don't know what your family was like. My family was like my mom and dad. If I missed the bus, tough shit, you're walking. Now, it wasn't so bad in grade school because I could actually see my grade school from the house. It was about, on the road, it was about 1.5 miles away. But if I cut through the woods and went up over the hill, I could get there in about 15 minutes. So it really wasn't a big deal to walk to school, or walk home for that matter, for the elementary school. Now, the junior high and the senior high were quite a bit further away. They still made me walk when I missed the bus. So you couldn't pull that, oh, I missed the bus, I'm just going to stay home today. No, it doesn't fly. And, yeah, and our bus driver, we did have a cool bus driver, and we used to mess with her so bad. We used to call her Crab Lady. And she drove our bus the whole time through elementary school and into junior high. She was an old cranky lady even whenever I first met her. But we used to pick on her, and I feel bad now, and I don't even know if she's still alive. I kind of feel like I want to apologize to her. One of the worst things we did was around Christmas time. And back in the 70s, if you remember the bulbs, the Christmas lights, but they were the big bulbs, almost like the size of a refrigerator bulb is today. We used to sit in the back. Well, we only did it once because we all got in trouble and got our asses beat. But we started hucking these balls, because when you throw these balls and they break, bulbs, light bulbs, they would break and they make a really loud explosion noise. And we were kids. We just thought that was great. So we chuck them from the back of the bus all the way up to the front windshield. And yeah, I got in so much trouble for that, but that's just some of the stupid shit we did when we were kids. But yeah, missing the bus sucked. You didn't get a ride to school. Nope, parents wouldn't take you. My dad's busy getting ready to go to his job, and my mom didn't have a car most of the time until we got that bag I told you about. But even then, she wouldn't. She'd like, no, you missed the bus. Tough shit. You're walking. So, walk up to school. And then, and then when the weather was nice, I didn't mind walking home. And all you need was a permission slip from your parents to walk home. So when I'm in elementary school, 5th or 6th grade, old enough to have somewhat of a brain, we'd have to sit there and wait. They call the buses individually. So, like bus 55, and then you leave if you're on bus 55, and they go through. But they'd make the people who walked over wait. They would actually announce when the walkers were allowed to leave the property. I always thought that was stupid. It always irritated me. It's like, we're walking home. Just let us go. We're sitting there doing nothing. I got cartoons to watch. I want to go home and watch Sanford and Son before my dad gets home and kicks me off the TV. Nope. Had to wait for them to call walkers. And sometimes they call it early. Sometimes they call them last. I could never understand why they did that. But yeah, that was part of the 70s too. Another thing in the 70s, if you went to elementary school, junior high, and even the senior high, they would paddle you if you did something wrong. One of the options was detention, in-school suspension, out-of-school suspension, and you get paddled with a wooden paddle, which is not, I don't know if many schools do that. That's a good thing. Leave it in the comments if you know a school that still uses paddling. It wasn't a Catholic school, it was a public school. But yeah, if you messed up, they'd take you out in the hall and they'd whack you in the ass with this paddle a couple times. I think they should bring that back, to be honest with you. But as a little kid, and I was a smart ass, always getting in trouble, my butt was very familiar with that paddle. Hated it. They also called it corporal punishment for some reason. Never quite understood that. But corporal punishment, as opposed to capital punishment, where, they give you the chair. They didn't do that in the 70s in our school. Maybe in real life, or, adults did. I don't know. That's a good question. Did they have executions in the 70s? I can think of a few people I wish would have gone through it. What also sucked in the 70s, and you were not going to win this argument with me, and this is just one picture, is the clothing people wore. These guys look ridiculous. I mean, it's like a whole Cousin Eddie foundation. No. Look at big, huge collars sticking out in the weird colors. And, I could go on for hours about how bad that clothing was. In 1977, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory came out. And even I was only, In 77, I would have been 9 years old. I looked at these old people, and I thought they were the laziest human beings on earth. They're sitting there just in bed all the time, doing absolutely nothing, making the children do all the work for them. I thought they were the laziest pieces of shit ever. I really did. And I remember feeling that way back when I was a kid. I'm like, what do they get to lay around do nothing? I want to lay around do nothing. And then, of course, Grandpa Joe got up and, all of a sudden he's feeling great. He's feeling great whenever they get the chance with the golden ticket. Just annoyed me. Just annoyed me. And I liked a lot of movies back then, too. I liked a lot of movies. We didn't get to go to the theaters that much because, well, my parents just didn't take me. I did get to see Star Wars. But I remember I had to watch Jaws. I didn't have to watch, but I wanted to watch Jaws one night. And my parents had left for the evening. They went out to a banquet for my dad's work. And so I'm watching Jaws for the first time. Little kid, I forget what year it was. But I'm just a little kid. And I know I got my little popcorn thing, and I'm sitting there. The one TV in the house is on, and I'm sitting there watching it. Mom and Dad are out, As a little kid, that movie is the only movie to this day that ever scared the shit out of me and gave me nightmares. For years, I wouldn't sleep on my bed with my leg hanging out over the edge. I was always afraid Jaws was going to come by and bite my leg off. I mean, since then, I'm a huge horror fanatic now. I love horror movies, and I just laugh at them. But I remember that feeling when I was a little kid, just being afraid, just from the movie and having the nightmares. That's what I hate about Jaws. I love the movie Jaws, but I hate the feeling it gave me when I was a little kid. I don't have a graphic for that. Now, in the 70s, we started using the 8-track tapes and the 8-track tape players. And, they sounded okay. I still, to this day, love vinyl. In fact, the other day, I went to Target and I saw AC/DC Live on vinyl. And I'm like, ooh, I'm going to buy this. I picked it up. It's $50. I'm like, oh, well, I'm not going to buy this. But I just always hated 8-track tapes for some reason. I don't know why. I just always hated them. Maybe it's because you have to sit there and wait. You can't rewind. If you want to hear the same song over again, you've got to fast forward through everything else in the channels to get back to where you want to be. I'm just saying. Like I said, this is all my opinion. Even cassettes, when cassettes came out, still you had to fast forward and rewind. So much better with vinyl if you have to use MP3s. Okay, 1976 was a big year for America. It was our bicentennial. And I was in, I think, 2nd grade. And this is a picture of me. Bonus points if you can pick out which one's me. But and these are the clothes we had to wear. And these weren't costumes. Well, the hats were. We sat down and made revolutionary war hats out of construction paper. I mean, that's what you do when you're in 2nd grade. But these were the clothes we had to wear. And if you haven't guessed which one I am, in fact, I'm going to give you just a couple more seconds while I talk. But just look at these clothes that everybody's wearing. From starting off on your left, that kid's not dressed too bad. He has a white shirt on, looks like maybe like khakis or something like that. The dude next to him, look at those bright red pants he's wearing. That was the 70s. It's, I wanted to wear blue jeans, but all my clothes had to come from Kmart. My mom would get the blue light special. Okay, the dude sitting next to that, the skinny guy with the striped shirt, I know who that is. I don't talk to him. I haven't seen him. I'm not going to say I don't talk to him, but I haven't seen him. Okay, he just has a 70s striped shirt on. It looks like maybe blue jeans. The guy next to him, his name is Tim. I just talked to him the other day. He relatively looks normal. Looks like he's got like a 70s jacket on there. And then there's a guy next to him where it's a blue shirt on. And what the hell's up with those pants? I mean, look at those pants. That's the crap. That's me. Yeah, I'm that guy. Those pants, I hated those pants. They look ridiculous. It's like I'm like I was a reject from the Brady Bunch or something like that. And that's the kind of crap my parents would buy me. I didn't start wearing blue jeans till middle school. But this is how we all dressed in the 70s, and I hated it. I really hated it. Look at me. I look ridiculous. Feel free to make fun of me in the comments for that one. I deserve it. No wonder I got picked on so much. And another thing about the clothes and stuff we wore, I had an older sister. She's 7 years older than me. So in the 70s, she was a teenager. And she would bring her friends over to do whatever, girlfriends, boyfriends, whatever. We had a pool, so they'd be swimming in the pool and stuff like that. And one thing I noticed about them all, and I had to talk to my wife about this, and my sister's not alive anymore, so I can't talk to her about it. So I guess she can't get mad at me for saying it. They all stunk. They were all like dirty hippies, like long-haired, creepy people. Not that I have a problem with long-haired, creepy people, because I used to be a long-haired, creepy people, but I don't think they used deodorant back in the 70s, because I just remember the odor. And my mom used to bitch about it all the time, too. They just smelled. It's like, okay, you know, even I knew what deodorant was back then. Maybe I'm picking on people I shouldn't be picking on, but just like I said, this is about what I hated from the 70s, and that's one of the memories that are burned in my brain that I really hated. Okay, moving on. Okay, let's talk about gaming in the 70s. You know, board games were really popular in the 70s, chess, checkers, and all the ones you see in this picture here. And I had most of them. Like I'm looking at the picture now. I had almost all of them. Here's a couple there I don't recognize. This isn't my picture. I stole it fair and square off the internet for what's it called, for fair usage and education. Now, my parents would buy me board games at Christmas time or, you know, whenever. And that's great. I had all these board games. I wasn't allowed to have friends over to play them. So they just sat. You can't play board games by yourself. Unless it's like maybe Boggle, something like that. But still, I'm just a little kid. I don't want to sit there and play Boggle. That was an old person's game back then. I play it all the time now because I love it. But not back then. Yeah, I'd have all these two-player games I couldn't play. Nobody would play chess with me. Nobody played checkers. Nobody played Operation, Concentration. You all need 2 people. And I wasn't allowed to have friends over because my mom was so picky and finicky about our house that it was a show place. So I'm like, geez. And then when I did have friends over, she'd let me take one game out on the back porch to play for a little bit. But the problem is you know, Pennsylvania is pretty windy sometimes. And it just it sucked. But that's not all we had. We had the Atari 2600, which came out in 1977. Yeah, it came out in 77. It was before Star Wars. Yeah, I'm right. And if I'm wrong, correct me in the comments, but I think I'm right. Atari 2600 was great. You play video games at home, you know. Once again, I wasn't allowed to have people over the house. And because we only had the one TV, I wasn't allowed to really play much because my dad always wanted to watch TV. That was his thing. He'd come home from work, plopped his ass in front of the TV, watched his stuff, watched the news, we ate dinner, and then again, I'd have a plop his ass in front of the TV. So I had the Atari 2600. I'm at school all day. I don't really get to play it. And then when I did get to play it, all my dad would do was complain about, oh, you're going to burn out the picture tube. You're going to burn out the picture tube. That was one thing. And what came with the Atari 2600? Pop quiz, hot shot pop quiz. The game Combat came with the Atari 2600. 2-player tank game and other things in there too, but I remember the tank game. 2 players. I wasn't allowed to have people over. Once in a blue moon, very seldom, my dad would sit down and play, but he hated video games. He thought they were a waste of time. I had to wait another 6 months to get my first single-player game, which was Asteroids. And if you remember Asteroids on the 2600, it was really cool at first, and then it got really dumb real quick. Those are the only 2 games I have for the longest time on the 2600, so it's almost not worth having. Hated that part about it. Love the 2600. My friend had one. I go visit him, and we could play. He had all kind of games and stuff like that we could play. He would never let me borrow one, but we'd play at his house because it was him and I, 2 players. Parents wouldn't let me have people over. I know, it sounds like I'm feeling sorry for myself, but this video is about what I hated about the 70s. That's one of them. Okay, so the day's all ended. It's about 9 o'clock on a Friday or Saturday night. I don't have school the next day. I'm allowed to stay up and watch TV. Sweet. I've always been a night owl, even when I was a little kid. So my dad would go to bed. I'd watch something on TV. Most stations back then went off the air between 11 and 12 o'clock. And then there was nothing to watch. There's no late night TV. And what I ended up seeing on TV when I did watch was infomercials. That's when the infomercials first started in about 78, 79, and 80. So, okay, I'm up. I'm allowed to watch TV, but nothing's on. Nothing's on. Even when we got cable, when I was thinking about it, I think we got cable in 79. I'm pretty sure. I remember it had a cable box, and it sat on top of the old TV, and it had a dial to turn all 36 stations coming in from the cable. That's how it was when we first got it. But until even after we got that, it was all infomercials. Like, there's nothing to watch. What's the point of staying up? try to play my Atari game, but nobody can play with me.
Nobody wants to play with me.
I mean, I didn't have a bad childhood. I really didn't. I had a good childhood. There's a lot I loved about the 70s too, and I'm gonna do follow-up videos on what I loved about the 80s and what I loved about the 70s, because like I said, somebody about my 80s video, somebody said, "Oh, well, you just hate the 80s." No, I don't hate the 80s. I don't hate the 70s. I love them. It was my childhood. There's things that annoy the hell out of me, and that's what we're talking about today. So the other thing I was left to talk about is outside activities that we did in the summer, or if we played a little bit when we got home from school, if the weather was nice. And we love to go in the woods. And this is a good thing, so I'm seeing not everything's bad. We used to just go in the woods and run around. We'd ride our bikes through the woods on the trails and stuff like that. And this was the bike I had when I was a little kid. Came from Kmart. It's an All-Pro. This is not my exact bike, but it is what I had. It's just not mine. Does that make sense? It's a picture I stole fair and square off the internet to tell the story. Anyway, I had this thing for years, and all my friends, we all had basically the same bikes, and there was Schwinn's, there was Huffy's. This was a Kmart All-Pro. But I don't care. I love this bike. We used to take it everywhere. And I had that. There was really nothing wrong with it, except if you can look up there on the handlebars, there was a piece of like tubing on each handle where you would hold on to. I was pumping up this hill, and the handle fell off. My bike fell over. I fell and I broke this wrist the first time. That's what I hate about it. That's what I hated about it. But I love the bike. I mean, I had that for years. And later on, we even took the banana seat off of it, and we put a regular seat that you see today on there. I got off an old 10-speed. So, yeah, I don't hate the bike, but I hated the fact that, and that wasn't the first time. I used to go home with broken glasses all the time. I did a face plant once, and if it wasn't for my glasses, I probably would have lost an eye because it just scraped the pavement, scraped right across my lens. And so, yeah, because, back then we didn't even worry about helmets or knee pads or anything like that. We used to set ramps up. You hear other people talking about it. But we did. We'd get boards and bricks, and we'd set up ramps, and we'd jump over things. Evel Knievel was a big deal back then. I've broken a few bones riding my bike. I've gotten myself cut up. I got scars from it. It's just how we were. So, okay, on to the next thing I hate. We're just about done here. Skateboards in the 70s. This, again, is not my skateboard, but I had one just like it. And we rode skateboards completely different back then than people do today with all the flying tricks and stuff like that, which I kind of like that. I'm never going to be able to do it, but it's interesting to watch. How we did the skateboards back then is we would climb to the top of a hill on a street, and we would race. It'd be me and my friend Sean, or my friend Sean and I, excuse me. We would just start to see who got to the bottom first. Whoever reached the stop sign first won the race. And they were pretty big hills. I don't know how many face plants I've done with these. No helmets, no knee pads, no nothing. What I hated about them is they sucked. They were shitty. They were terrible. The only thing these would go good on was concrete. So if you were lucky enough to have somewhere have a concrete sidewalk, but even the concrete sidewalk had those little sections of dividers so it doesn't freeze and break, and you'd hit one of those. It's like running a forklift into a zip tie. It ain't going nowhere. Boom, face plant. Go to see the doctor. Skateboards have gotten a lot better over the years now. They just, I had them into the 80s. We pretty much still did the same thing. But I hated that first skateboard. It just was rickety as hell. There's really only one more thing I wanted to mention in this video. It was actually hard for me to come up with what we did come up with. My wife helped me a little bit. The last thing I want to bring up is the 1976 Gran Torino station wagon. Now, you're probably thinking, well, Bruce, what are you going to hate a Gran Torino for? I don't hate the Gran Torino. I hate the Gran Torino station wagon. It was banana yellow because for some reason my dad had an obsession with banana yellow vehicles. I tried to find a picture of it, I couldn't. But it was banana yellow, and it had the Gran Torino engine, which, that was cool. It was ugly. It was like a banana. And station wagon, guess what? I had to get to ride in the back all the time whenever it was full. That's fine. That was adventure back then. But it was banana yellow. Now, my mom, always raised in the generation they called keeping up with the Joneses. And that's where, you know, you have to one up your neighbors. Your neighbors get a new house, or of course they get a new house. Your neighbors get a swimming pool. You got to get a swimming pool. Your neighbors gets a new car. You got to get a better car. And that was my mom's mentality. God rest her soul. She just died last month. But I will never forget when we got that Gran Torino station wagon. Because, you know, Gran Torino is a really cool car. Did you ever see the movie? I love that movie. Anyway, back to the Gran Torino station wagon. We go to church or we go anywhere. We lived in a little town. It was called Fort Allen, Pennsylvania. It's a suburb of Greensburg, Pennsylvania. We'd leave, go wherever. We came back, 90 degrees, 95 degrees outside. The car didn't have air conditioning, which back then, I didn't know the difference. In the 70s, not a lot of cars had air conditioning. But when we came back to our town and we started making the turn to get into the town, my mom would make us roll up all the windows so our neighbors thought we had air conditioning in the car. How petty is that? But she would do it every single time. I don't know why, but yeah, I just hate that whole concept. So, all right, I think I've rambled on enough. You'll notice there's a lot of cuts in this video because I keep having coughing fits. But I managed to get through it. These are things I just hate about the 70s. And if you have any, please add your comments, just like last time. I enjoy reading them, and I'm at the point where I do pretty much answer all of them. And I just like doing this for you guys. So I'll catch you later. And like I said, coming up, I'm going to do, not tonight, but I'm going to do the video of what I loved about the 80s. And I'm going to try not to keep it cliche. I'm just going to, I don't know, we'll just have some fun with it. Anyway, hey, thanks for watching this far. And like and subscribe. Spread it around. You'd be doing me a favor. Bye.
It's just Bruce, he don't bite. Hello.
I can't end this video without doing this. Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey. Hello, my ragtime gal. Send me a kiss by wire. Baby, my heart's on fire. If you refuse me, honey, you get the hint. Bye.